Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And today I'm talking about the new album from the Prodigy, No Tourists. The Prodigy, a four-piece outfit consisting of Liam Howlett, Maxim Reality, Keith Flint, and Liam Howlett. Honestly, I don't think I actually need to introduce these guys. Figure most of you already know who they are. But in case you don't know, they were one of the biggest names in the Big Beat movement. And you probably know more of their tracks than you think you do. This is one of the most heavily requested bands for me to talk about on this channel. I've not really had the proper opportunity to talk about them before, aside from including their first album on my favorites of all time list. I mean, a lot of people have asked for a discography review on them. Maybe someday. I don't know when. But I can quickly go down their discography so far, though. Yeah, easily my favorite Prodigy album. I don't think there's any dance album out there that hits harder or makes me want to dance like this one does. Just 12 tracks of pure gold all the way through. Love pretty much everything about this thing. Basically, this is their snivelization, kind of also meant to respond to the 1994 criminal justice bill and, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's also freaking great all the way through, if maybe a little on the long side. Still prefer Experience, but this is a classic too, and the Narcotic Suite at the end is easily worth the price of admission. I don't think I love this album quite as much as most people do. I think their last two were a little better for me, but I can't deny it's another classic. One of the most iconic and easily recognizable dance albums ever. This is not bad, but it's kind of forgettable, honestly. I remember enjoying this one more than the last one, but it's not one that had much longevity or lasting impact for me. Okay, while not on the level of the first three, this was actually a solid return to form. I don't know if I'd kept it on my best albums of 2015 list if I made that now, but it'd at least be an honorable mention. Actually still worth checking out. It's a good one. Which brings us to here. So, yeah, the Prodigy have three classic albums, but, after the Fad of the Land, it kinda lost my interest a little bit. Not that the stuff they did afterwards is bad, just most of it is kinda retreading past success, or just kinda forgettable in comparison. Though their last album, The Day Is My Enemy, held up surprisingly well. I'm not gonna act like I was going out of my mind with anticipation to hear this new album, though. I think I'm pretty much good with the four Prodigy albums I already keep on my iPod, and I'm not itching to get new music from them at this point. When they dropped the single Need Someone, I gave it like a quick iTunes preview, but I just thought, oh cool, the Prodigy are back, and didn't really give it a second thought. I typically don't listen to pre-album singles anyways, unless I'm really heavily anticipating a release, since I don't like spoilers. But, whatever. I knew I was gonna cover this album anyways, though. I've seen a fair bit of enthusiasm towards this latest release, so hopefully it wasn't gonna be that bad, right? I mean, it'd be pointless to hope for something on the level of their first three, but I'd heard somewhere there was gonna be a bit of a return to their older sounds, bring back some of that old rave style back, which at least sounded intriguing. So yeah, what did we get with No Tourists? It's okay? It's really not the best they can do, though. Like, not even close. In fact, if you want me to be brutally honest, I think this is actually their worst album to date. First of all, let's address the idea behind this album, which I don't actually disapprove of. Seems Liam Howlett was trying to combine the more recent metal-tinged sound of the Prodigy with their older sounds of the first two albums. It sounds cool in theory, I'll admit, but what it leads to is a lot of tracks with metal influences that make everything sound like B-sides from The Day Is My Enemy, and the older sounds brought in is mainly just a ton of chipmunk vocals on nearly every track. Now, Experience has a lot of chipmunk vocals as well, and they were really fun on that album. I take your brain to another dimension and all that stuff. But, like, something about this juxtaposition really didn't work this time around. Most of these tracks don't really sound that good. No, you know what? It isn't so much the juxtaposition or the ideas that went into it that killed this album for me. It was primarily the production and mixing. It feels really rushed, and most of these tracks are seriously lacking in bass. Tracks that should be really hard-hitting and deliver some visceral impact instead come off really shrill and tinny. It's actually the exact same problem I had with Sophie's Oil of Every Pearl's Uninsides, actually. Now, most people I saw really loved that album, so I'll perfectly be able to understand if some people are going to hear this and just not hear where my critiques are coming from and enjoy it like any other Prodigy album. But I hear this album and think, geez, Liam Howlett really should have put some more time in these to make them sound better. So, okay, let's talk individual tracks. The opener and lead single, Need Someone, is one of the better sounding tracks from here. Hard-hitting breakbeats, fun and kinda catchy repetitive synth riffs, and a memorable sample saying the title, bringing it all together. It is one of the few tracks from here that stuck with me after I was done listening to the album. Only problem is that it's way too short. It's not even 3 minutes long. It's over before it got the chance to really live out its full potential. It's a good track, though. Light Up the Sky has a pretty fun progression of pitched up samples. Starts out good, but then in come the guitars and rapping that I guess are there to make the track sound more like the Prodigy instead of the Chemical Brothers, and the guitars specifically just sound really bad. The lack of bass takes out all the punch they could have had. I think the Chemicals would have done this one better, fight me. I have very similar thoughts on the track Time Bomb Zone. The pitched up samples are good, but the abrasive synths and drops, if you want to call them that, they just sound more shrill than they need to and are seriously lacking the low end. At least that one has a pretty fun breakbeat underneath, if nothing else. We Live Forever is another at least decent sounding track, one where some of the experienced sounds come in. There's some pitched up rapping here that actually succeeded in recapturing a bit of that quirky fun the first album had. And the other sounds on here don't take away from my enjoyment either. Only problem is that none of it is all that memorable. I don't remember what any of the voices say. The title track does have some menacing vibes in it that I thought were pretty cool, some almost cataclysmic sounding chord progressions provided by some movie soundtrack-ish samples. It's one of the better ones here, but Fight Fire with Fire is not. Just really bad sounding dubstep wubbing, really shrill chipmunk metal screaming, and the vocal contributions of Ho 9909 are mostly unremarkable and not that fun for me to listen to. I know it's horror, but whatever. Champions of London, meanwhile, probably has the most potential out of any track on here. The guitars still don't sound that great, and I don't care much for the chipmunk voices here either, but the drum and bass backing beat is the most driving and hard-hitting thing on the album. It's the one track that most makes me want to get off my ass and start dancing. And Keith Flint's rapping is fun too. This is probably the best track on here. Boom Boom Tap almost delivers on something similar, with the drum and bass elements being pretty fun and hard-hitting, but that main voice sample is, like, kind of offbeat and kind of annoying. On first listen, it made me laugh more than it did add to the experience at all. Finally, there's Resonate, which didn't stand out aside from one progression of synths that remind me a little bit of Outer Space and kind of made me smile a little. And they at least close with one of the better tracks as well. Give Me a Signal has one of the more satisfying sounding hooks. Barnes Courtney delivers a pretty fun vocal performance, and there's even a lot of old school acid synths, which are a really nice touch, and give it a bit more of that, 90s throwback feel. So yeah, I'll say there are at least 4 solid tracks that I overall enjoyed, with Need Someone, the title track, Champions of London, and Give Me a Signal. And the rest had some potential to be decent with some remastering. Even some of the better ones couldn't stood remastering, but whatever. But here's the thing. What makes this album especially hard for me to recommend in general isn't that I think it's bad in a vacuum. It's really not. It's just kind of okay and had potential to be better. But even if this were remastered to actually sound good, I think it'd still be, like, mid-low 7 range at very best. The trouble is, there's really no reason to listen to No Tourists when they have 6 other albums that deliver on similar stuff and, quite frankly, all do it better. I mean, obviously there's no point in comparing it to their first 3, it was never going to be that good, but even so. Like, Always Outnumbered and Invaders Must Die may not have been that memorable to me, but they at least sounded better than this. And The Day Is My Enemy wasn't a masterpiece of production either, but I can remember how most of those tracks go. It's just way more fun an experience. No Tourist's biggest crime is feeling pointless. I can imagine pretty much all of these going down well in a live setting, but this album comes off to me as Liam Howlett putting together some music for the sake of putting something out. It's not their most refined, it's not their most memorable. There's no quality of No Tourists that makes it stand out from the Prodigy's back catalog, or that it does better than any previous album. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, I really wanted to like this album. It's got some good tracks, but as a whole it's just really meh, and overall I can't say there's anything essential to be found here. I'm overall feeling a 5.5 out of 10. But of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts, so leave the comments in the comment thing down there. Shout out to my Patreon supporters. They're awesome people. If you want to add yourself to that list or make me a review of something, link to my Patreon is in the description. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's all for today. See you next time.
Don't let the friction.